Welcome, everybody. My name is Mark Menzer. I'm in Reston, Virginia, and I've been a CCL member for about a year, just a little over a year. When I retired, I started working with CCL and with business climate leaders, and I'll tell you a little bit more about us and what we're doing and how you can get involved, and maybe we'll do some role playing if we have time. And I see some names and some faces here that I've seen before on other Zoom meetings. Since I've been involved for about a year, I've just about only met people on Zoom as we've been isolated. I went to one CCL meeting in Washington right before the pandemic, and otherwise it's been faces I've seen you guys in your homes. So anyway, it's good to see you again, or see you for the first time. So let me go tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing. As I said, I've retired last year from a career in the HVAC and the energy businesses, working mostly with trade associations here in the Washington area. So that's kind of what brought me into Citizens Climate Lobby and Business Climate Leaders. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about what BCL is, why we think that business support is of paramount importance to CCL and to getting our objectives, how we engage with businesses, and we'll talk about some specifics there, how to go from how to bring a company from being a prospect to being a co-advocate with us for the Energy Innovation Act, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers and discussion, I'm sure, at the end. And please, if you have any questions, Stephanie, can people unmute themselves if they need to? Yes, okay. So please step in, ask questions. I won't be monitoring the chat so much, but please interrupt me because we have plenty of time here. So first of all, Business Climate Leaders is one of the action teams of CCL. There are many. I think we may be the biggest, or certainly one of the most active. And we are a grass top outreach lever. So we are trying to influence the influencer, people in our communities who are close to members of Congress in many cases, and who have some pull with them. And our group, our BCL group, supports you as you go out to talk to businesses in your area, and we support the chapters. We support these business sectors that we have. I'll talk some more about that. And we have lots and lots of information, lots of support material. So anything that you try to do, probably somebody has tried to do before, maybe successfully before, and we have all kinds of materials that you can use as you pursue businesses. And ultimately, we're trying to build partnerships with industry for a more livable world for everybody. And we'd like to start by mentioning James Hansen's comment. James Hansen was with NASA for many years, where he brought climate change to light to many of us, and then he's now a professor at Columbia. And he said it's the captains of industry who can get us through the climate crisis. He said, I've met with them. They have children and grandchildren, and they want to be part of the solution. And that's true. We find that to be the case. They want to be, but we have to keep bringing it up on their radar. And why do we even need to go to business leaders? Well, I think some of it's very obvious. They provide jobs in congressional districts. They have credibility with Congress people on economic issues, and constantly hear small and medium businesses are the backbone of America, and Congress likes to hear from them. Business people are known to be problem solvers. Many already have relationships with their members of Congress. They may be donors and supporters. So they're important people, and we respect them, and we really, try to do a good job in researching who these business people are before we meet with them. So this turns out to be a interesting week for many reasons. A couple of interesting reports came out this week, and one was from the Business Roundtable. Business Roundtable represents some of the largest, most powerful CEOs of businesses in the United States. And in the past, Business Roundtable has been quite neutral on climate change. This really didn't take any positions on it. But this week, they came out with a whole report of recommendations, and including this quote that you see here, where they say that climate change is one of the greatest challenges facing the planet today, and we believe businesses are an essential part of the solution. Representing more than 200 CEOs from America's leading companies, Business Roundtable's position on climate change, the new Business Roundtable position on climate change reflects our belief that a national market-based emissions reduction policy is critical to reducing greenhouse gas emissions to levels designed to avoid the worst effects and mitigate the impacts of climate change. Now, that's a lot there, but it's really worth spending time and looking at, because it is a complete reversal, and it is very indicative of many businesses in general now who are starting to speak out. Another group, a federal regulatory commission this week, also came out with a report saying that we are not financially, our financial systems are not ready for climate change. It can really literally break the bank. So a lot of things are happening now. It may be because this past week was Climate Week in New York City, a big international recognition of climate change. Maybe that's why these came out now, but we're seeing suddenly a lot of change of heart, if you will, about climate change. So that's good. So going back to BCL, Business Climate Leaders. So we support businesses, and we support you in going to businesses in a couple of different ways. We have a steering committee that kind of keeps things coordinated in BCL, and we work both through these national sector teams in different business areas. I'll talk about that in a moment, and also your local chapter team. So we support local chapters as you go out in your communities and talk to businesses, Chamber of Commerces, et cetera. So, as I said, we're there to support you. And we talk about business sectors. So we have divided industry up into the sectors you see here. And for each one of these sectors, we have a lead and a team. Some are more active than others. Some are new. Some have been around for quite some time. But these are people who are experts or become experts in these fields, and make contacts, do the research, and go out and start talking to various industries and companies within these industries. And we get our aim is to get them to sign declarations. These are statements that say, whereas the climate is changing, whereas it's man-made contributions are important, whereas, as a result, we support climate pricing, and in particular, the energy innovation and climate dividend act. And we have many signed endorsements. So you see here, for some of the groups, it turns out the brewers in the wine industry, maybe because we had some good contacts, but maybe because they were also very receptive, have been some of the most active endorsers early on. 202 brewers, 80 in the wine industry. And by the way, after this meeting, I will make sure that these slides get sent to you, because everything that you see underlined here is a link to more information, and you can see the endorsement. You can see the declarations that we have and who have endorsed it. And, I, living in Northern Virginia, like to go to the wineries. And when I do, especially on a day when it's not too crowded, I like to ask to see the owner and sit down there and spend 10 minutes and tell them about CCL and what we're doing, and try to get them to sign on to the declarations. So there's a lot here that that we individually can do. You see the other areas where we have endorsements. Real estate is an area we're just ramping up. We hope to have the real estate community signing endorsements soon. And I, coming from the HVAC world, would like to get a declaration going there as well. So why are we going? I mean, what are we doing when we go to businesses? Well, we're doing an ask, just like when we go to Congress people and asking them. Our asks are to perhaps they can privately express their support for our act to their representatives and their U.S. senators when they meet with them, to join us when we meet with Congress, and we've had a lot of success there. And I have to say that because we are meeting with members of Congress virtually these days, we've actually had more business people be able to join us because they don't have to fly into Washington and spend a day doing it. They can just take a half an hour out of their day and join us as we speak to the congressman or their staff on a Zoom call. So that's actually worked well for us. We asked the businesses to publicly support HR 763, which is the act that we are all pushing. Or if they can't do that specifically, we ask them to support carbon fee and dividend principles in general. We ask them and we help them to educate their employees and their business network. So once they are an ally, we provide them materials so they can reach out to both in their company and to their competitors, sometimes through their trade associations. And then we ask them also to introduce us to their competitors and trade associations. And there are other things we ask. And as I said, when I send you these slides, you can take a look at the links. I'm not sure that I have a slide on trade organizations, but I think they're pretty interesting. In some cases, trade groups are leaders, and they really lead their members, and they may be the first ones who say, you know, we really should look into this act because it makes sense for the industry. But then other times, it's the companies themselves that are the leaders, and they'll go to their trade association and say, you know, somebody called me up from CCL, and we really should have them in and have them talk to us about carbon fee and dividends because it makes sense for us. So these are the asks that we go in with. And what we do in BCL going after companies is very parallel to what CCL does when they put together a team to go in to talk to a member of Congress. We develop a team, and because it's always more effective and more fun to do it as a team, and we put together the roles that you see here to get the information that we need to talk to the businesses, including a researcher. And I'll talk about some of the research that we do and some of the research facilities that we have that you can use before you go talk to a company. So, we start with a target list. We start, of course, with members of Congress that we want to try to influence, and then we try to figure out who are the businesses that are most influential to that member of Congress. And one thing we have is, I'm going to go to this link here. We have it's not ours, it's a public site called opensecrets.org. And opensecrets.org has public information about who is donating and contributing to various politicians. So, we can go to the politicians and lobbyists page and put in somebody. I guess for some reason, Anna Eshu is in there already. And, we go down here and there is, I guess, a tab for industries and lots of information, because it is all public, about who supports various candidates. And here you see, right, this just shows you different types of industries, but you can drill down further and actually see who is making the contributions. So very important information there. And then, of course, you know, if you have a congressperson and you have, for instance, the local IT company that's a big contributor, um, we would approach the IT company and say, first of all, what we're doing makes sense for you. And then once we've convinced you of that, come with us to the congressperson and let's talk together about why our act is so important. So, so we talk with donors, employees, employers, alumni, trade organizations, as I said before. We just think about who do we know that knows people, because it's all about relationships. It's all about who knows who. You know, and when you start talking to friends and then friends of friends, it's just amazing how many come up. You know, we were talking to some new neighbors the other day, right where I live, about putting a new roof on our house. And I said, what do you do? And it turns out he is a vice president for a defense contractor here in the Washington suburbs. And I took a look at that open secrets list, and his company is one of the largest contributors to our local congressman. Turns out our local congressman is already a supporter of the act, but no matter, you know, let's go back to him and let's get weave another part of that web to get him, you know, as part of our family. So, you know, we just talk to people and try to make those relationships. Let me move on. Okay, so then we get to the research part. You know, we want to find out everything we can about the company. You know, so I said, well, for instance, we talked to my neighbor and I found out what company he's in. What's their position on climate change and sustainability? So we go to their website. Many companies, particularly those that are consumer-oriented companies, now have some positions, some statement on how green they are. And you know, so read it and take note and use that in your favor as you talk to them. Who are the key people in the company? If you are on LinkedIn, and we all should be, because that's a great resource, you can do a search for that company and find out who the higher ups are and how you're linked to them. I'm surprised. I am either directly linked to or just secondarily linked to so many people that I want to talk to. And I find the person who I'm directly linked to, I ask them to make an introduction to that secondary person and then try to start a conversation with them. What organizations do they belong to? Trade associations, environmental groups, everything that you can, you know, when you go in and talk to them, you want to have that bond right away. So whatever you can talk to them about that you have in common is good. What are their competitors doing on climate? Are they a leader or are they a follower? If they're a leader and want to maintain their leadership, you know, this working with us is a great way to be doing so. And then there's lots of other groups that they might belong to. Some of them are listed here. We're still in, which means we're still in the Paris Agreement, is one. RE100 is another group of companies who have made pledges on climate, and others that you see there. So if they're parts of those groups, that means they've made pledges, and they should be more open to talking with us. I'll take a moment here and just ask if, as I've been blabbering, are there any questions or comments about anything that I've gone through so far?
And please feel free to put questions in the chat, and or you can unmute yourself and ask a question verbally.
Mark, this is Cindy Burbank in Warrenton. I've wanted for some time to get something rolling with local chambers of commerce in Virginia. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, good. Me too. And I have not yet been successful, but I've talked to some others about it, and there seems to be a growing interest. And there's been some success around the country. I'm not sure about. So, for instance, Miami. I know they had some real success there.
Yeah.
But again, it was personal relationships. So I've sent a couple of notes over to the executive director of my local Chamber of Commerce. Have not gotten an answer back yet. And this is one way that I think that this COVID pandemic is impeding us a little bit, because normally I'd be out in stores and talking to people and making a special effort to saying, are you a member of the chamber? And try to get in that way. But I do think that chambers of commerce are critically important. They usually have the local business leaders. They usually have a connection to elected representatives. And I think we need to try harder to go after them. One thing I noticed in my local Chamber of Commerce, and I need to follow up on this, is besides the executive director, who doesn't seem to have the time to get back to me, they also have a government affairs committee. And I have the names now of the co-chairs of that committee. So I want to reach out to them and see if maybe they've got a little more interest in talking about this. So, you know, a lot of them, climate change is not, particularly these days, very high on their radar. But look, that's our job, to keep it on the radar and to make them realize how important it is. So, yeah, so it's important. We probably should talk some more about some best practices there. Yeah, so let's keep in touch and figure out how to move ahead on this.
In fact, if I could add to that, I think that's an important enough area, Stephanie, that maybe with Mark's help, we could have a special Virginia CCL Zoom call for those who have an interest in that, where we could put our heads together and strategize, talk about what's going on with the National Chamber of Commerce, and, as Mark said, best practices.
Yeah, I totally agree. And something that I've been wanting to establish for a while is a grass tops outreach committee. And maybe we could sort of try to establish a group to really focus on grass tops, business outreach. So if anyone would be interested in joining a team like that and having a discussion about outreach to the business community and chambers of commerce, please say in the chat, like, I would be interested in joining that conversation. So then we can be sure to invite you to that.
Yep.
Thanks.
Good. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. That's a great suggestion. Okay. So, you know, then how do we make contact? If you know people, but you don't know how to reach them, that we have listed here on this first bullet of actually some websites where you can find emails of people. You know, I mean, sometimes we see somebody's name, we kind of guess what their email address is, but they're actually sites that'll help you do that. And then, you know, craft an email. And as I said, most of what you're going to want to do, somebody has done before. What I'm showing you here is part of our BCL resources page, and you can go to on this page and actually go into our folder, and you will see listed there files for every kind of introductory email that you can imagine. So plagiarize our emails, borrow from them, and you know, set up an opening email to this person you're trying to reach. Ask them for a meeting, and then send them information. So I am reaching out because I am interested in HVAC. I am reaching out to the Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute. And I've made a relationship, and before COVID, I was able to go out for coffee with the Vice President of Government Affairs, and I send her every time something new comes out. So I'm about to send her an email about the Business Roundtable announcement and things like that, just to keep in touch. And she has actually promised me that after the election, I'll be able to speak to their government affairs committee. So I, you know, see that as a real milestone. And that's the kind of thing. Just, you know, stay in touch, send new stuff, what's going on, keep the relationship going. And as you know, we say in CCL, the 3 Ps: be patient, be polite, and certainly be persistent. And then, once you've made the connection and that you get invited in, then, you have to prepare for that meeting. Create a strategy for engagement. Think about, go through role playing. Think about what the meeting will be like, open-ended questions that allow them to speak. Remember, you learn more from listening to them than from you talking. What would be most interest to them about what we're doing? And then, just like when we meet members of Congress, think about what the appreciations are, what you're going to go in with saying, we know you've done this and we appreciate that you've done this. And then think about what your asks are going to be as you go through the meeting and at the end of the meeting. Create a meeting agenda just like you would for any kind of meeting. These are usually efficient, time-constrained business people, and we need to be respectful of that. And again, the same kinds of roles that when we meet with Congress, a lead person, somebody who will be there who will remember to give that appreciation, somebody to make sure that we stay on time, that time doesn't get away from us, somebody who's going to be the asker, and then somebody to keep notes during it. It's interesting. One comment I got back from a business person we met, that they actually felt that our meeting was a little too structured and they wanted a little bit more give and take. So while we have some structure to it and we want to make sure we get out of it what we want, you do have to let the conversation flow. And what do we talk about? We talk about the moral imperative of taming climate change, which is something that they care to, and we've made that point here already. We have to talk to them about the business case in their particular case. It can't be general. It's got to be talking about them. And we have in BCL lots of analyses that we've done for particular industries. I can tell you that when we talk to wineries, we can tell them that upfront the effect of higher energy prices on their wine will be $1 cent a bottle at the beginning, and I think 3 cents a bottle after 10 years. So we can tell them specifically what the effects are going to be, at least what the costs are going to be. Of course, we're going to talk about what the benefits are going to be for them as well. And I think this is what's getting people's attention right now, that policy is going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen in November, but we think at some point down the line, there's going to be a lot more policy concerning climate change. And you can be an observer of this policy going on, or you could be at the table helping it to happen. And we think that our solution is better than a whole lot of other solutions. And I think we can convince businesses that that's the case too. So that gets their ears perked up. Okay, and then we have, I've got some specifics here. How are we doing on time? Well, we're actually moving along, but we have, for a healthcare organization, how we would approach them because they're interested in what's happening in people's health, so air pollution and deaths. So we talk about lower emissions of fossil fuels, lower greenhouse gases. For brewers, they're very concerned about their availability of barley and hops and wheat and all their inputs to what they use, because they're already seeing some concerns there. So we talk to them about that and what the dividend will mean to them, more money in consumers' pockets to buy beer, buy wine, whatever. When we talk to solar installers, we talk to them about the change of the return on investment for their customers when they put solar on because of higher electric prices. Ski resorts, we actually have had a lot of success now with ski resorts. They've really seen the changing climate affecting them, and they've had increased insurance costs. So we talk to them about that and how our solution not only is the best solution, but it's also the most bipartisan solution, because most of them are in areas where there are conservative representation in Congress. Excuse me. So, the meeting agenda is shown here. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. What I want to do is a few of my colleagues in BCL recently put together a play acting, role-playing session of how to conduct a business meeting. And I think, doing these are really important before you go out and visit with business people, to kind of anticipate what the meeting might be like and what questions might come up. So I'd like to share with you for a few minutes here this role-playing video. Yeah, could you hear that all right or not?
No, so when you reshare, just click that button to share your computer audio.
Yeah, let me, hang on
I
a
know,
second.
I always forget that too.
I always forget that too. So I want to share screen and I want to share the sound. Yes. Okay.
What's your time frame like?
I got about a half an hour.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Well, I got to say straight off, I'm one happy customer. Thank you for the solar panels. Your crew did an excellent job, and we're loving them. So thank you.
Great. I'll let them know.
Please do. Okay, so as you know, we're here to talk to you about Citizens Climate Lobby and the work that we do, the bipartisan work that we do. And we're, again, just really glad for your time today.
Sure.
Did you get a chance to look at the information we sent along, Bruce?
I did. I just skimmed over it, though. I'd like
Okay.
a recap, if you could.
Oh, yeah, happy to. So as Sarah said, we're part of Citizens Climate Lobby. We're volunteers, and there's over 200,000 of us in the U.S., and we have local chapters in every congressional district. And as Sarah mentioned, we are working on bipartisan to raise bipartisan support for climate action. So we're meeting with every member of Congress 3 to 4 times a year. And we have been instrumental and are engaged in getting federal carbon pricing passed, specifically a bill that's now introduced in the House called the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. And the 3 tenets of that are putting a steadily rising price on fossil fuels at the source, taking all that money and giving it back equally to every US citizen on a monthly basis, and having a border carbon adjustment to make sure that US businesses are competitive. And also, I think even more importantly, or equally importantly, is to encourage other countries to enact similar policies.
Yeah.
So we believe this overall framework is both, it will be good for your business and good for the economy as a whole. Will grow jobs, it will lower pollution, which is great for our health, and it's great for the environment in that it will help get us on track to meet what scientists are telling us is essential in terms of lowering greenhouse gas emissions.
As a business person, Bruce, and the industry that you're in, the carbon-free industry, it's really important to understand that this is a market-based solution. Randy and I both know that you worked on some cap and trade policy, and so wondering if you have
Yeah, it's just in a nutshell, why do you like carbon fee and dividend better than cap and trade?
Well, most importantly, it's equitable and it's transparent. It's a simple solution. It's a market-based solution, and it works across the board.
Yeah, gasoline as well as power plants, I understand.
Exactly.
All right, that sounds good. So I'm interested in my partner. I will talk to my partner about this, and if she goes along with it, then we'd like to be able to help you. What would that look like?
Well, you have a lot of options. You can talk to your employees. You can talk to your colleagues, especially since you're in the carbon-free industry. They're a significant voice as well. And you can meet with us, with your members of Congress to support this bill. And went ahead and considered signing an endorsement for the act. I believe we sent over a link to the carbon-free declaration. You should find it there somewhere.
Yeah.
To you again if you can't find it. But having your support and others in your industry put your signature on to this declaration would be really important.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, do I get a commission on any referrals?
Absolutely, of course.
That's the way it works. Well, Boy, I really appreciate the time you're spending on this. I've really got to go now. If I have any more questions, should I get in touch with you or?
Please do, and we'll make sure to follow up with you as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and
We're
happy
really
to
grateful.
happy to meet again. Happy to meet with you and your with your partners or employees or however we can, whatever we can do to support. We're here.
Yeah, well, considering the dark skies that we've got out there, I really appreciate all the work that you folks have put into this over the years, and keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, and we're looking forward to working with you too.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Hey, good morning,
Oh,
Bruce.
oops.
Good morning.
How are you?
Okay, so hopefully you can see my slides again now. And okay, good. All right, and so that's kind of a typical meeting. You know, they're short, they're sweet. We knew something about the company and the person before we went in, and then just like you would do with any other meeting, followed up with a thank you note, send along information, and then keep that relationship going. And again, I have a link here for many other resources that we have, good excuses to to follow up with them on a regular basis. So now this is my ask. My ask of you is to think about how you or your local chapters can get involved by joining our team. You can find us on community site. Go to the Connect with Others, and under Action Teams, you will find business climate leaders. As I said, we have a steering committee. You're invited to join our meetings, but there's a lot of other information we send out, and it's a good way to link your local chapter with what we're doing on a national scale. Also, as I've said before, we have lots of resources. It's under this URL, bclresources.org, and just a ton of stuff there to help you prepare for and to follow up on a meeting. And a few other links here where to find us, our website, our external website, our internal website that has all of the resources, as well as my email address there. So with that, I've told you everything I know. We've got a few minutes here to take questions and have discussions. So let me get out of the way.
Thanks, Mark. There was a good question in the chat that I wanted to make sure to highlight for you. Nikhil asked, do we have comparatives with competing solutions, both as it pertains to benefits for businesses and for achieving emissions targets? Are businesses okay with the dividends, the redistributive aspect of the dividends? So I guess, do we have, when you present the bill, is there a comparison versus other types of climate solutions, and how do businesses feel about the dividend approach?
Yeah, so we have for our bill, I mean, we don't have it against other, there are other carbon fee and dividend bills, right? Or other carbon fee bills, I guess I would say, that have different slopes and things like that. And we haven't done a one-to-one comparison against them. But what we are doing now is the Congress, Nancy Pelosi had set up a select committee on climate change. And this committee came out with a set of recommendations, like 500 recommendations of different policies that they could do, including carbon fee. What we're doing now is putting together an analysis of how carbon fee helps many of those other policies. So it's not a comparison against, because we don't think, that maybe this is better than mandating high efficiency vehicles or electric vehicles. We think there's a, kind of a combination of things. But what we like to show is how carbon fee helps all those other policies be implemented, makes those other policies better. So that is something that we will have soon. Was there another question that you had in that list?
Mark, hi, this is Randy Freed. I had a question. First, thanks for this very thoughtful presentation. My question is this. I would imagine that it is most persuasive if we can get business endorsements within the district or within the state. And yet for most large businesses, they're going to have corporate headquarters and their mothership is not necessarily going to be in Virginia or in the district. Is it even worth seeking an endorsement from a branch office, or is it your experience that pretty much every time out they're going to say, sorry, we can talk, but I can't give you an endorsement without approval from the mothership?
Yeah, so usually it's the latter. It's usually a corporate decision. It doesn't hurt to ask, however, because they have company-wide meetings and we say, yeah, we had a local group here come in as well. Or maybe, they'll just put you in touch with their Washington rep. And, that'll be the way the conversation starts. The larger companies we are trying to deal with on a national level at their headquarters. So, talking to the local Coke distributor, probably Coca-Cola distributor, probably wouldn't be as useful. But, this nation is medium and small businesses. That's where many of the jobs are, and that's the strength of our economy. And so there's a lot that can be done there. There's a lot that can be done on the local and regional level with local and regional companies. So I think, having that conversation, it doesn't hurt, and it can help.
And maybe as a follow-up, in cases where we have the national endorsement and there's a significant branch office in the district or the state, does it make sense to try to repurpose the national endorsement for purposes of persuading our local and state MOCs?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's worthwhile. I think also we've recently put together a marketing and communications committee within our business climate leaders, and we're trying to think about how we recognize these companies. Just simple things like giving them a certificate to put in their lobby, and letting them have our insignia on something. So the local place may not even know that the corporate is a signee onto our declaration, so they might be interested to know. And at some point, there might be something that they can put a plaque on the wall or put something in their advertising. So I think keeping the conversations going on a local and regional level help that way as well. Yeah, good question. Thank you.
Mark, have you used inroads at all in making the case for the bill within the business community?
I'm sorry, you trailed off there. Did we make the case for?
Well, have you used the tool inroads?
Oh, inroads. Yes, we have. Yeah, we do use that tool. I'm not that familiar with it. If you know what it is, maybe you could explain it a little bit.
Well, it's a simulator which we in Lynchburg we just got started beginning to use with the community, but it certainly is being used with legislators and policymakers, and certainly could be used with business leaders as well, to understand and frame the argument for carbon fee and dividend.
Right. It simulates different policies, right?
Simulates different policies, and projects what each one of those policies would do to lowering or raising the temperature.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that's a good point. It has been used by some in some meetings, I know. Let me also mention, that even though we have a lot of resources and a lot of people have done things already, we certainly don't have all the answers, and we are still a relatively small group. And you all represent probably some industry, some companies, some business that you've been a part of or are a part of, certainly businesses that you patronize, but particularly ones that you've been part of because you know them. And you've got expertise and you've got context. And so every one of you are instrumental then in being able to help and make this effort a little bit stronger. When I came in a year ago with my HVAC background, nobody else that I had talked to had that kind of background, so that was unique. I've since found a few people within CCL who do, and we've been working together. You bring something to the table probably that we don't have right now. So again, I encourage you to take a look at what we do, join us, and talk to your chapter about what we're doing business-wise.
Thank you so much, Mark.